Thank you all so much for dialing in today. I'm really excited to learn alongside you all about how to pitch like a goddess. I think that's just like the best title for an office hours. So before we officially begin, I wanted to share a bit of background information on our esteemed expert. Nilima is the founder of the Female Founders Lab, which is a virtual accelerator for ideas that can transform industries to become more regenerative, sustainable, holistic, democratic, and just. Her flagship program, Pitch Lab, has helped early stage impact founders achieve quantum results, like going from having no capital and a very small user base to receiving $500,000 in 2 to 4 weeks, and then $1 million and more a few months later, getting into Techstars and 10xing their user base in 4 weeks. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Nilima. We're so excited to learn from your expertise today. We know how valuable your time is, and we're so grateful to you for investing in the D&D Collective in this way.
Amazing. Thanks, Hannah. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to share a lot of things with you. And so the way this is going to work is I'm going to be telling more of my story and the insights gleaned from that you can apply to your venture, your deck in the first half, or like the first however long it takes. And then we'll have a lot of time for just one-on-one interaction, for questions, for if you want to even share like a part of your pitch deck and like get my eyes on it, if you want to just air something that you're facing, like anything that you want in the second half of the of this container. So something that I always start with is a grounding breath, because I think that it brings everyone's like presence into this space and just like energizes the whole space. So what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes and we're going to take a few deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. So just close your eyes, settle into your seat. And I want you to take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And coming into this space, leaving behind the stressors and the triggers that have happened so far today or this week, and trying to come in just fresh and open and ready. And letting your brain relax, or any part of you that feels like has to prove something, just let that go. And just come into your heart space and just feel it. You can even put a hand on your heart. The founder journey is super tough, but it starts from your heart. And so it's the place where we always go to when we have to make decisions, because it never lies. And as we relax deeper into our hearts and our bodies, remembering why you started your venture, or if you not have a venture, why you're doing what you do, and how it feels when you're on purpose. How right it feels. This is the energy that we bring to pitching. It's this centered groundedness that already knows what you're doing, why you're doing it, and releases and trusts that only the right people are going to enter your container, as I call it, invest or partner or buy from you. And if you have any intention coming through your body, just organically emerging for this call, you can type it in the chat box and you can open your eyes when you feel ready. Okay, I don't see any intentions. All right. So I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to Pitch Like a Goddess. I'm Nilima, I'm the founder of the Female Founders Lab. We're venture accelerators for ideas that can transform systems and industries. Oh, thanks, Samantha. You said that was a great start to this meeting, feeling grounded. Thank you. Yeah, you guys like keep feeding me back comments because it's so weird to talk and like have no idea what's happening on the other side, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, let's see. I started the Female Founders Lab because I spent more than 10 years in the social enterprise space in the startup industry, and had a very like circuitous path. I was a curriculum writer at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. So I was writing like MBA case studies on emerging markets and social impact. And then I booked a one-way ticket to India in 2011, where I lived there for 6.5 years. And I ran a seed stage accelerator for social innovators. And then I had my own venture. And I went through all of the major like big name accelerators. And through that journey, I always felt like there was like a disconnect between the way that I was building my company and the way that the startup ecosystem like talked about it or was like supportive to me. And there were so many times where I felt like super lonely in the journey because I felt like I wasn't actually being seen and heard in what my vision wanted to become. There's a lot of people who just had like off the cuff opinions based on ego or like based on like, this is what everyone says you have to do, like you have to do this. And it's like, yeah, but are you hearing my vision and like what I'm trying to build, right? And so I started the Female Founders Lab as a safe space where we can actually tune deeper into that vision and tune up the entire pitch deck so that it's a lot easier for people to receive it in a way that makes sense to them, and thus for you to magnetize aligned people in. So let me tell you a story. So I'm standing on the stage of the Bombay Stock Exchange in August 2015. And this is the day before the pitch event for a really high profile accelerator that I've been part of for the previous 6 weeks, where I've literally been day and night pouring my soul, like pouring my heart into like creating this pitch deck. And it's been so time consuming and stressful actually that I almost like, it's taken me away from even like working on my venture. And the next day, I'm going to be pitching to all of the major stakeholders, venture capitalists from all across the world, Google, government of India, press. And this is also a really important moment for me because I've been working on my venture for the past like 2-3 years, and I've achieved product market fit. I know it works. And it's a sex education product that I created to transform kids' behaviors and attitudes around gender and sexuality. And I'm at this point where I'm like, literally, I'm running out of money and I need to raise capital. to scale this out. And it's almost like, I don't want to say desperate, but there's like the weight of scarcity on me in this moment. And I like, this pitch has to go well. So flashback to a few years earlier, when I was running launched and ran a seed accelerator that was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation in India. And this very highly publicized rape case happened in Delhi in December of 2013. And this was a time when all these, basically there's like mass protests all around the country in the startup ecosystem. People are trying to come up with solutions for gender equality. And you just see this kind of knee-jerk reaction. Okay, let's create a safety app with like a panic button. Or let's create, and it's all these like, just like very tactical, for lack of a better word, solutions. Like, for example, someone came up, this is like a ridiculous example, someone came up with an electric bra. So if someone tried to like molest you, it would give off shocks. And to me, that is a Band-Aid solution. Like, that's not a systemic solution. It's not going to heal and transform gender relations in the country at scale. So it's not an issue for the next generation. It's just something some engineer thought off the cuff without thoroughly, investigating the problem. So I decided to tackle this issue. I left my job at the accelerator and I created a gendered sex education toolkit that was very taboo free and friendly and safe and colorful for middle schoolers and early high schoolers, that would educate them on everything from like puberty to sex to consent and gender roles. And my vision was like any facilitator should be able to carry this out in the classroom with minimal training. So I went ahead and I did pilots. This is me in a inner city slum classroom in Mumbai running the course in a Teach for India pilot. And this is a classroom where it's so tiny that like all the kids you have to come in first and all the kids come in, because it's like this tiny little room where like there's like no way to get in and out otherwise. And they're very, very misbehaved kids. So like the reason they brought us in there was because it was like mass chaos in the classroom. Like the teachers couldn't teach, like the little boys were like getting teased by the older boys, like girls were getting harassed, like female teachers were getting harassed, right? And these are children. Like, it's like they're not like, some sort of toxic like adults. They're literally like 12 and 13-year-olds. So it's clear that the education, whatever education was necessary at this age, was not taking place. So they called us in to do the course and we ran the whole course. And at the end, I got this testimonial from a little boy who came up to me and he said, before I used to think it was right to force a girl at any cost. But after you taught us, my mind changed completely. Now, if a girl says no, I'll not force her. I'll accept it and I'll move on. And the same boy told me, and like, we're like creating a coalition and we're like educating all the other boys in the school about consent. And the girls feel a lot more comfortable like speaking up in class, like especially like when they're on their periods. And we have transformed the whole culture of this classroom with this course. So I realized like, okay, this works. Now, if we just scale this across the country, we can end sexual violence. Well, not so easy. It takes a lot to move people's hearts and minds towards a solution that hasn't been done for thousands of years, that's been taboo for thousands of years. And so that's why I was on the stage of the Bombay Stock Exchange, August 2015, pitching my heart out at the dress rehearsal for the final pitch day of this accelerator. And I do my entire pitch and I stop and I'm like hungry for feedback. Like, what will it take for me to raise this money, right? And, I accidentally opened my chat box and now I'm trying to figure out how to close it. Okay, there we go. All right, what will it take? I like left you on like the cliffhanger, like a Netflix show. What will it take? So I finished my entire pitch and there's silence from like, it's basically the entire accelerator team that's like watching this dress rehearsal. And I'm like ready for the feedback. There's just silence. I'm like looking around, no one's saying anything, like no expression on anyone's faces. And finally, like one of the ladies just like looks at me and she's like, you know, pushes her glasses up her nose. And she's like, what's that font? Like, what is this? Like this, you don't even have any animations on your slides. Like, it looks like you spent no time on this. This is literally, my 11-year-old son could have done this. This is the worst pitch I've ever seen. So, okay, thanks for the not very constructive feedback. I go home and I'm devastated. And I'm literally like, and this is, mind you, this is like an accelerator with like a 1% acceptance rate. Like it's like one of the top accelerators in the country. And I go home and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, if people can't see or hear me, like, why have I sacrificed my country, my life, you know, my normal life, my savings, my reputation to build something if people can't see or hear me? So I decided to give myself 6 months and then leave. And so I did. I closed up shop and I left. And I came back to California. And a few months later, I'm like sitting at the dining room table, like my parents' like kitchen, and I get this email, and it's from the largest corporation in India. And they basically say, we love what you're doing. We want to purchase your content pack. And we want to distribute your program and train, like physically go in and train teachers in 15,000 classrooms across the country to reach 600,000 students nationally. So at this moment, like this sigh of relief goes through me. And it's like, for every time that somebody hadn't like seen or heard me, I had been right all along. Like my vision had been right. And this is a scale achieved not by governments for this sort of deep transformative sex education program, not by private sector corporations or NGOs. And I achieved this with a team of 3 people, a little bit of capital from friends and family without any connections or precedent in a foreign country. But I realized that I had been following a feminine leadership paradigm inside a masculine ecosystem. Like I achieved the result, but the journey itself was so arduous because I didn't realize I'd been following a feminine leadership paradigm inside a masculine ecosystem. And this is what I call goddess leadership. So number 1, my vision chose me. And like raise your hand or put something in the chat box if you can relate to this. Most people won't give up everything to start a venture unless there is like a deep underlying force behind this. And there's some people who go out and they're like, okay, like, there's 15 different ways I can make money. Like, let me try this or this or this or this or this. And that's how they start their business. That's not the way that I started my company. I started my company like, I need to solve this problem. I have the skills that can solve this problem. I know how to create curriculum that can change kids' lives, that can change the whole society. Like, it's like, I know how to get in there and do the thing that's going to create the ripple effect that's going to change the whole thing. I have to do it. So I was a channel for my vision to come through me. So the insight here is that if I'm a channel for my vision to come through me, anchoring first in my vision and my unique ability to carry it out is fundamental. I had to remind myself, look, I have like the cross-cultural experience to talk about sex ed in this country, which billions of people don't. Like, I have the experience writing curriculum in the past which has led me to this very moment to write this curriculum. I have experience in the social entrepreneurship space, right? And for you, whatever you're building, there, and every founder I talk to, there's a unique skill set. Oftentimes you don't even recognize in yourself, in lived experience as well, that has like brought you to the moment of running your venture. Number two, so I'm a channel for my vision. Number two, I created a container for others to join me in my vision. So this is when we built the entire product. So this can be a product, a service, program, or indeed a container can be a fundraise. This is when you decide, I have this gigantic vision, but I need a way for others to join me in this journey. And this is really important because you often forget that you're inviting others to join you inside your container. And as soon as you create the product or whatever, it's like, please, does anyone like this? Or fundraise? Does anyone want to invest? No, right? It's your container and you're inviting people into it. And there's a level of detachment, like emotional detachment, that occurs when you start to think of it that way. That just like quantum leaps your progress in attracting people in. So number three is that I let myself be seen and heard fully, and I became a magnet for values-aligned people. So I spent a lot of time like going door to door to schools, like trying to convince them about sex education, going and visiting, and actually at the point that I was on the reality show, pitching live to 10 million viewers across India, which is like a Shark Tank style show that I was chosen for, boom, I was in front of 10 million people. And I was letting my story be seen and heard fully. And that's what turns on the magnet for the right people to find you. And how much more leverage did I have operating in that way, as opposed to like knocking on doors and literally burning myself out, doing it the other way. So my insight here, I'm going to play a little game with you guys before I get to the insight on this one. So tell me, how does it feel? And Hannah, maybe if you can unmute yourself, because I can't open the chat box, you can like say some of the words that are coming up.
Yes.
So tell me how it feels when I say these words to you guys, okay? Pitching, selling, pushing it out, convincing a customer, converting a customer, telling someone what he wants to hear.
Okay, we have ugh, nerve-wracking, transactional, not me, inauthentic, one way versus a conversation, cringy.
Okay. It's like the whole collective just went, okay, let's do the next slide. So tell me how it feels when I say these words. Being yourself, letting yourself be seen and heard, letting customers come to you where there's natural fit, letting investors find you where there's love and respect, letting investors stay far away where there isn't.
Okay, we have love, exciting, sweet, happy, empowering, and then idealistic though, question mark.
So this is the difference between pushing and receiving. And I know I set it up to prove a point. There's no right way, actually. We need a balance of the two, but it's to demonstrate that there is a counterbalance to the culture that we operate in. So every single person has masculine and feminine energy in our bodies, whether we're male, female, or non-identifying. And so masculine energy or yang is associated with the pushing, right? Penetration. It's the competitive, it's the assertive, it's the practical, it's mental. It's ego-based, so it's the ego side of our being. So it's based on ego and status. And more than anything else, it's out to in. So this is about external validation. So let's run the numbers, let's get the data, and let's receive inputs from the external environment. Feminine energy, on the other hand, is right brain. So it's creative, it's collaborative, and it's receiving. And it's also the part of ourselves that holds the vision. It's imaginative, it's dreaming, it's intuitive, so it's linked to our purpose. And more than anything, it's the in to out. So it's internally sourced as opposed to externally validated. So everyone, we're always embodying both sides, masculine and feminine, all the time. And it doesn't even matter how much you think of yourself as like feminine or masculine. This is energetic concepts. Like you can't exist as a human unless you have the two. But there's an excess of masculine energy in all of our industries. And so we often feel that unless we're pushing or unless we're just going as hard as we can, we're doing something wrong. But that could be farther from the truth, because often when we consciously embody our feminine side first and be seen and heard and receive, we actually become hyper magnets to the sorts of partners and people that we want. So my insight for number 3 is that instead of pushing harder, I let myself be seen and heard. And that's how I made the quantum leap to reaching 500,000 kids across the country in less than 3 years. That's how I did that with less team, with less capital, right? I let the message vibrate out and become a magnet. So the principles are, my vision chose me. After that, I create a container for others to join me in my vision. And I let myself be seen and heard fully and become a magnet for values-aligned people. So you might be thinking, what the hell does this have to do with my pitch deck? Everything. Because when you master these concepts, you tune up your pitch deck in each of these 3 areas. So if you're truly claiming the bigness of your industry shifting vision and all the ripple effects and all of the value you're going to create, that comes through in the first 3 slides, which is when you're talking about your problem statement, you're talking about your user story, and you're talking about your personal story and tying that in. I'll go into them one by one. And then the second one, creating a container for others to join me. Are you raising the right amount of money, or is your offer priced correctly? Can others join you in this? Can they understand it? Is it relevant to them and what they understand, right? This is the communication. And number 3 is really the process of the fundraise. Like, are you pushing and shoving and overworking and burning out that excitement inside, or are you letting yourself be seen and heard and becoming a magnet? So I've worked with, literally like hundreds of founders, and there's common themes across everyone who's purpose-driven, at least. So in the first one, my vision chose me. I'm a channel for my vision. This comes across in the pitch deck as not fully embracing the fullness of your big vision and purpose, because you think it's too big or the other person's not going to get it. People already look at me weird when I try to explain it. So let me just make it smaller so that they can understand it. Right? And also not fully embodying your uniqueness as the founder. There's a hell of a lot of lived experience that you're bringing to the table as a founder. And that's where your personal story really makes a huge difference, because when someone can see that in you, like, wow, this person has all these layers of experience and wisdom and all these things accumulated over the year that's like catapulted to them starting this. It's not just like they just thought of it one day. And so often you'll gloss over your personal story because you're not comfortable sharing it. You're scared to be seen. You're scared it won't be received. Maybe it's a traumatic story that led you into this path. But by not including that, you're really doing yourself and the other person a disservice. So your pitch deck, like even an investor deck, if you can really incorporate these things really well, it'll tell the story of like, why this, why you, why now, and why you. So say your first slide is the problem slide. This problem slide should fit into the bigness of your vision. So maybe you have a medical device. I don't know, I'm just giving like a random example. It's not about necessarily just the device. It's about the large scale shift that can occur for all of these people, or even the way that maybe they think about solving this issue, right? There's always like a larger shift that's happening in the industry as a result of the product or service that you're getting out there. And there's always like a reason why this is the exact right time to do it, especially now when all of our systems and industries are imploding on themselves. And we need new solutions going forward. And then why you? So if you're painting such a big story, you have to stand in your power and be like, me because X, Y, Z, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, and like uncovering the parts of your experience that that kind of corroborate that you're ready to carry this out. So it's easier to keep it smaller, right? You don't want to like get too big with the vision, but actually, if you can open up the bigness of your vision, but then make it really concise, that's how we kind of unlock the power of you, because all of your vision, all of you is being seen and you're standing in it. This is what it is. And you're keeping it concise on the slides, but it's there so people can kind of see the broader vision. Final note on this slide is that if you've experienced something, there are millions of users out there. You're not going out of yourself to find your customers. You exist, you've experienced this. For sure, you have a user base like of lots of people who have also experienced this. That's another reason why your story plays a big role, especially in the early stage. You might not have a ton of traction to really prove that there's product market fit out there. Number two, creating a container for others to join you. So some of the things founders do, changing your fundraising amount, like, oh, I actually need 600K. Like that feels really good because I have like 100 users, you know, or I've seen that this like product market fit is there, but I really need to bring on these like key team members and get the marketing, and we can really do it then. Right? Oh, but you know, that feels like a lot. So let me just do 150 for now and then do the 600 like later. So like raise your hand if you've ever done, everyone does this. And like, that's fine, right? But it's kind of like, you kind of have to decide for yourself what you need in this moment. Like, are you ready to take the leap to the next level? Then go for the 600 or, you know, whatever it is, the exact amount of money that's gonna bring you to that next plateau where you're like, okay, I have the resources to go here, you know, to scale in this way. And on the other hand, actually, I've seen scarcity playing out in the other way where it's like, you know, I need like $3 million. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure everyone can use $3 million, but what do you need first? Like, what is the next step for you? Because sometimes people are scared, like, oh, I won't be able to raise later. Like, I need to get all of it, you know? It's like, no, what's the first chunk? And trust that as that money comes in, like the later rounds will come in, right? So choosing that fundraising amount based on what feels really aligned. The second thing that founders do is like changing your pitch deck endlessly based on micro feedback from investors or mentors. It's like drives me insane. Like I did this as well as a founder, and it's like if I look at my pitch deck and like in my head there's like a script running of like, is this good enough? Should I change this number? Is this, will people? That's not the energy you want going out and like inviting people into your container. So you must have a very clear mind when you are receiving feedback from people. You receive it. Okay, you just receive it. You don't have to respond. You don't have to think or feel anything about it. You receive it. You take a breath. And later you evaluate based on all of the feedback, like what changes should I make? What feels right? What feels in resonance? Who was this person who gave me this feedback? Like, are they even, qualified to be giving me this? And you make those changes, hopefully, with that clarity of mind. So codify the next level version of your venture once, and then hold that container. Hold that container. And let the right people come in. And like, I made a joke, like hold for dear life, like hodl, like Bitcoin, but like just hold it for dear life. Like you have decided, and there's a certain number of people who have probably validated it, right? So you get that. If some people have, it feels right to you and you have some validation, you have like check and check. Okay, we're going with this. Okay, number 3, let me see how we're doing in time. Number 3, let yourself be seen and heard fully to become a magnet. Okay, so the main thing I see with founders here is like, no one gets what I'm doing, or like people don't invest in female founders, or there's not enough people in my network, who have money to give me, or like, I don't know how to get in with the VC firms. I'm not like part of Silicon Valley. And, like, sure, like maybe you don't have like billionaire or millionaire friends, but like most people don't. And the thing here is like, I truly believe, and I've seen this time and again, is that the people you need are usually there, either in your immediate network or at arm's distance. And if you haven't been sharing your message boldly and letting yourself be seen and heard, those people, you're not even going to realize they're there. So here's why I say shut off your mind, take action consistently, and then let the right people come to you in divine timing. And any single person, even if they give you 10K, even if someone gives you 5K and you're raising like 600K, that's evidence. This human is giving me money, right? And so celebrate every single person who comes in, creation over outcomes. The mind will go, no, but I still need this much more. Focus on what you've already created. And this also goes for your deck. Like you can feel like self-conscious about your traction so far. You're trying to like inflate things to like make it look better. Stand firm in what you've already created. That's enough. So yeah, those are kind of like the 3 like major principles and the way I see it played out in pitch decks. And so like last thing that I'll say is like this stuff works. It may sound a little woo-woo maybe to some of you New Yorkers. Joke, just kidding. But like this stuff works because I truly believe that confidence isn't just like, oh, I'm confident. Like, okay, I'm confident. It's a result of these very tactical alignments. Okay, I'm claiming my vision. Okay, I've like decided my container. Okay, I'm letting myself be seen and heard and taking the action. And then when you start to get the results, confidence comes. Like you're never going to get the confidence before the thing happens. You have to take the steps first. So I've had a founder come into Pitch Lab, which is my 6-week accelerated container for pre-seed and seed stage founders. So generally they're coming in when they've had some traction, maybe like a year to have that initial users, and they're trying to raise their first round of capital. And these are usually first-time founders. So I've had a founder come in with no product yet and no pilots she had a mental health medication database where people could search based on symptoms. So bringing a whole lot of transparency to the healthcare industry, couldn't do anything until she had like a ton of money to buy all the data. So she came into Pitch Lab and she raised $400,000 from her community in 4 weeks after we tuned up her pitch deck. I had a founder come in who had 20 years of experience in agriculture industry, who wanted to create a fund for regenerative agriculture, but always felt overshadowed by her male colleagues and felt like when she talked about it, like they didn't get it and they couldn't understand her. So tuned up her pitch deck. And in the second week of Pitch Lab, someone she knew who she thought was like overly like masculine or like didn't get her idea, was offered her a $500,000 business contract for her vision, because she was able to articulate it and be seen and heard. And like other things like name brand partnerships, like getting 2 founders getting into Techstars, getting on national TV shows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's really not about, I mean, you know, it's not about the external results, because I really believe that when you understand these principles, like that is abundance, like that is power, like that's your power as a creator. And then you just keep creating and like, you know, you go forward. And so the main thing I want to leave you with is like, it is up to you to decide. It's up to you to decide that you're going to fundraise. It's up to you to decide how much, and it's up to you to kind of like stay in that and let it happen. And like the power belongs with you. And that's how these external things like start to happen. So yeah, that was, let me try to stop my share. I wasn't able to read the messages and I went through, so I'm going to scroll through them as we transition into Q&A. But first, actually, I'm going to take like a big breath. Maybe you can do that with me as well. Oh, beautiful. Thank you for the messages. So yeah, so let's do a little bit of Q&A, and we can just like, you can take yourself, like put on your video ideally, and we can like chat about, like answer questions, look at your pitch deck, or like talk about anything you want.
It's so hard to know where to start. I feel like this is so much good information. And I've been like, one thing that's really resonated is I've had a lot of like mentors and just people recently providing me with pitch feedback. And it is so easy to slip into like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like the words I'm using, or this didn't resonate or that didn't resonate. And so I like what you're saying about like kind of create what works for your narrative, like your story, and then hold true to it. So sort of just sharing. Thank you for that like validation. I feel like I needed to hear that today, and really appreciate it.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, let's like do everyone.
I have a question.
Mhm.
If it's hard for someone, in your experience, when you work with people who find it hard to talk about their personal story, just being vulnerable in front of others, how do you recommend approaching telling your story in a way that makes you feel comfortable, but that also is going to impact the conversation you're having?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So part of what I do when I work one-on-one with founders is that there's an honoring that takes place of your story in all of the intricacies and the places where even like it was like you feel ashamed, or it was hard, or you don't know how to talk about it. And it's almost like something you can do with a best friend where you sit down and you literally tell, nobody ever gives you time to just tell your story. Sit down with a friend, tell her your actual story, like how it actually happened. And get that out of your system first. And then let that person reflect back to you the gold in that. So this happened. This happened at like 3 bullets. And that's your narrative. And we're leaving out all the complexity of it. We're getting like just the basic bare bones of the wisdom that was garnered from that experience. And hopefully that makes you feel less like you're like sharing your bleeding heart and more like you're just telling the story objectively. Did you want to talk about it? Like your story or anything?
No, it was more just kind of conceptually, like, where do you start? Like, Jess, you mentioned like there's so much great information, but where do you begin? And I think that it's really nice. I love that actionable feedback of saying, well, you know what, just like find that space, take that time, actually just share it with someone, and then let them tell you what was impactful and what you said. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna start like calling on people. Is that okay? Socrates method. Teresa.
Hello. Do you have a question? Oh.
Just if there's anything you wanted to voice.
Ah. It was a lot, so I need to digest it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you made me think is, am I thinking too small? And it's something I need to reflect about and digest, but you really put this idea into my mind. Am I really thinking about, so am I really working to bring my big vision to the world, or am I doing it too small?
Yeah.
This is what I take, that I
Yeah.
need to think about that and rethink it.
If you're asking that question, there's probably a bigger vision that's wanting to come through. Thanks for sharing. Also, since I see people dropping off already, I just want to put this link in the chat box, which anyone who's here, you can get like a complimentary call with me if you'd like to discuss any part of this, go deeper into it with your venture. Super chill, like, just we can chat. Happy to. So I put the link in the chat box.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for facilitating this conversation and just sharing your story with us and giving such amazing tips that we can walk away with from here. And thank you everyone for joining and for tuning in so vulnerably and authentically, and for participating and for just being so amazing. These conversations are always the highlight of my week. So I'm really grateful we get to experience it together. Thank you so much, Nilima, for everything. We're so grateful for you. Yeah, this was just fantastic. It was great